It's funny, for a writer, I don't have a mind that works in anecdotes, but I do have a vivid memory of being in my grandfather's apartment in Los Angeles, and they were out of the house. And I was very young. I was too young to be left alone in an apartment, but for some reason maybe they were in a different part of it or they went down the hall. And first I wandered into his closet where I found his black bag. He was a doctor. And it was this amazing world of medicine and knowledge and science. And I wandered further, and he had a closet, and when you went through the closet, they had turned the other part of their closet into an art studio. And he did art there. He did painting and sculpture. And I remember that same day, he was a fastidious man with records, and he showed me our family, what records he had kept of our family history. And he pulled out his file. He was so fastidious that he had a gun because this was around after Pearl Harbor. Everybody in LA was scared the Japanese would invade. Steven Spielberg even made a movie about it in 1941. So he went out like everybody else and bought a pistol. And he was so fastidious that when he opened his cabinet, it was filed under P. But he also had our family history there. And he had written it out. He had talked to people and he knew who married who. And I remember looking at it, and he had his great-grandfather on it. This was back in the early 1800s in Pinsk or Minsk. And it said cigar roller. And I was so proud of that. You would think that, you'd only be proud if you were royalty, if you were descended from a line of royalty, or that you were on the Mayflower, or that you had a relative who was in the, who had achieved something great and you were from that line, and people always would boast about it. But I always took this perverse pride that, and I think a lot of Jews do, that we're not from royalty. We're from this line of people that somehow eked out a living on this earth, and while we were doing that, we were also developing these talents of the mind and these talents of the spirit that, in my grandfather's case, beautified the world and also helped heal the world. It made a big impression on me.